Hello, 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 everybody. It's your girl, Ashley, the amateur expert, coming to you live today for this episode of Talk Tuesday, where I go live with someone, talk to them about their career path, their idea of success, as well as the tips and motivators that they've used along the way. Today, I am wearing a hat, and it's not just any hat, it is a hat coming to you soon from my new line, Affirmed Armor, where we affirm people. Um, about things that they've forgotten about themselves, or remind people, excuse me, of things that they've forgotten about themselves in a discreet way. People are joining us. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you. I'm super excited about the launch of the line, but also super excited to have Kristin on with us today. She actually helped me launch my Asking for a Friend podcast segment. So it's fun to have her back again to talk about her career. So just waiting for her to join us, and then we will get started. Kristin is here. The line is dropping soon. The samples are out to the beta testers, beta customers waiting to get feedback from them, and then it'll be ready for the masses. So Kristin is here, and we can get started. Oof. Hello, my dear.
Hi, Ashley. How are
I
you?
am good. How are you? Welcome back
Good.
to the podcast.
I know. I'm so excited to be here. So we haven't connected since what, May? Was it May?
It was May when I first launched Asking for a Friend, and you were my very first
Yeah.
guest, and it was amazing.
It
So I'm
was
happy to have you
amazing.
back here today.
Happy to be back. I was looking forward to this, so it's just good to see you again.
Yes, likewise. So let's get started.
Okay.
Kristin, if you could please introduce yourself, tell us who you are and what you do currently for work.
Sure. So obviously, my name is Kristin. I am in my full-time role. I'm a technical recruiter. So I recruit for a fintech company here in North Carolina. But I'm also a style blogger and fashion creative.
Yes,
Always
ma'am.
been into fashion. So yeah, I give out fashion tips. Provide like consulting for professional women. Yeah, that's just what I do. That's my thing.
I love it. And you always look great, so it's always
Thank you.
inspiring. So Kristin, tell me this. When you were a little girl, what did you want to
Yeah.
be in regards to career?
Okay.
And what was the motivating factor behind that?
Okay. Awesome. Good question. So, when I was younger, honestly, I wanted to be a nurse. Like, I felt like I was going to go into the medical profession. And honestly, when I started undergrad, I started off as a nursing major. And it's so funny because when we got to, it wasn't to the point where we were doing like our actual clinicals, but
Mhm.
we had to do like volunteer work too. And
Okay.
so this particular Saturday, we did like a blood drive. And one of the nurses, actually, she was an instructor, was trying to show me how to draw blood. And
Hmm.
that's when I knew I was not meant to be a nurse. Like,
Wasn't your
I
thing.
wasn't meant to work in the medical field. Like, I knew I loved working with people,
Hmm.
but just not in that capacity. So
For
I
sure.
started off wanting to work in the medical field, and then yeah, that changed very quickly.
Very quickly. And so when you were younger, though, what was your idea of success?
When I was younger, honestly, my idea of success was more, I would say, more of a materialistic view of
Hmm.
success, if that makes sense. So, like, more so having, tons of money, nice cars, like things that represent that cliche, I guess,
Hmm.
view of success, which those are great to have
For
regardless.
sure.
But
Amen.
I didn't really delve into it past that, as at a young age. I just looked at it as having things.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you told us that you were not into the blood draw, and that is what made you make the pivot. So can
Yeah.
you just tell us a little bit more about that journey? How did you end up to where you are today?
Yeah. So like I was saying, I started off thinking I was gonna go, well, back, we can even go further back than that. In high school, I took like the CNA course,
Hmm.
and that was great. Like, I loved it. Like, I loved working with the older patients. And so that's what made me feel like, okay, I could go on and be a nurse. Went off to school, went to Salem State, and I started in the, I guess, like pre-nursing program,
Mm-hmm.
and I just knew it wasn't a fit, and so I researched other majors that really allowed me to work with people,
Mm-hmm.
hands-on with people.
For sure.
So I started studying psychology because I felt like, well, maybe I'll be a psychologist, a clinical psychologist. So that was a path that I was on, and I ended up graduating in 2008. And then I went and got my master's in public administration. So I shifted gears because I was like, well, maybe I'll go into like working in the local government, working for
Yep.
local government. And I did a couple internships, so I fell in love with that too. I was able to work with people and use what I think are my gifts and talents in that capacity. So then I moved to the DC area, and I started working for a consulting firm there, and I
Okay.
did some contract work even with a couple of agencies in that area, and it was great. So I was still able to, in every role I've ever been in, I was able to work with people, and
Mm-hmm.
then recruiting kind of found me.
Ah,
So
I love when that happens.
it always happens that way. So when I was in graduate school, a professor of mine was like, you're going to end up in human resources, like working with people. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, that's not what I want to do. Like, I felt like, no, I wouldn't. And that's exactly where
Wow.
where I ended up. And so for me, what I learned in that journey is you don't always have to have everything planned out
Oof.
to the point where you can't derail from that plan. And I even coach myself on that now. Like, you have to be flexible, still have goals, but be flexible in how you get there.
That's so
And
good.
if it changes, that's okay too, because I feel like I'm still fortunate enough to work in fields that allow me to be me
Yep.
and contribute, my gifts that I already have. And it wasn't what I originally planned and what I thought.
Yes.
So
I love how God does that for us.
every time,
Every single time. And so tell me this, what is your idea of success today?
my idea of success is first and foremost having peace.
Mm, yes.
Because I feel like if you're not at peace with yourself, then nothing else really matters. And even if things are aligning for you, it won't seem like they are because you're not in a place to receive that.
Yeah.
So for me, I still have goals. Don't get me wrong. I still have, vision for what I like to do. But the main thing I focus on now is staying centered
Mm,
and staying at peace and trying to stay calm and not being afraid to fail and
so
not
good.
being afraid to like put myself out there and
Mm-hmm.
you know if the path looks different than what I thought, I'm still going to take it and
Okay.
see how things go. So I think I'm more flexible with what success looks like, and really I don't have a hardcore definition of it
Mm,
because what does that really mean?
yes.
Like, what does success really mean? But for me, the main thing I would say now is just staying centered and being at peace and being flexible.
I love that. And so one of the things that we didn't touch on was
Yeah.
when did you decide to, I won't say pivot, but when did you decide to launch into the fashion side of your business or
Oh,
like
yeah.
become an entrepreneur?
Yeah. So let's go back to 2017. And actually, we'll go back to 2016. I knew that I wanted to launch a blog. I knew that I've always been into style, been into fashion. People have always asked me to help them, like
Mm,
with fashion. I've always been like a consultant and didn't even realize that I was consulting.
right.
Um, and so at the time, I was like, well, I'll go ahead and launch. I think it had to be late 2017, and at the time, I had just given birth to my son too, and so like trying to manage, motherhood, and then I was still working, and I think the intention was good, and
Hmm.
the vision was good, but the timing just was not right.
For sure.
And so I never let it go, but it just goes back to what we were talking about, just being flexible.
Yeah.
Because I used to be a person where I felt like if I didn't do something right then it won't get done.
Won't get that.
So now we could fast track to 2020,
Mm-hmm.
and I started I started doing posting some things back in like 2019. I had a website up, that kind of stuff, but I still wasn't like into it. Like I was just kind of going through the motions, and then the pandemic hit. And so I was talking to a friend of mine about this, and I was saying how I felt so bad because obviously, like people who were affected negatively from this
Mm-hmm.
experience, and I still, I feel awful about that.
Yeah.
But for me, I feel like it pushed me back into my creative space. And I felt like, well, one, because with like working from home and just like being so confined, I felt like I needed something that was still just mine and
Yeah.
like my creative outlet. And so I started like putting looks together again, and just blogging and talking about my experiences or giving out style tips. And then it was just like, I love this again. Like I I enjoy it. Like it doesn't feel like, oh my gosh, I have to do this today. And I'm still not a person who is very rigid about it. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't stress. I was getting ready to go down that path. Like you need to be posting and you need to do this, and
Yeah.
then it started feeling like no, like this is not what this is about. Like I'm gonna go at my own pace, and my vision of what I think it should be or will be may not even be the case,
Right.
and I'm okay with that because as long as I'm making an impact, I'm okay with that. And we don't always get to determine what that impact looks like. So,
Girl, speak on it.
I'm just being honest, just from my point of view. And I was like, I'm not going to make this into something that it shouldn't be. You know what I mean? Like, it's just going to be an outlet, and I'm hopefully helping some people along the way.
Yeah, and that's honestly exactly how I feel about the podcast, right? I
Right.
think it's so easy, especially in the world that we're living in, to compare yourself to other people and other people's journey. But realistically, what we are doing, one episode or one blog at a time, we're making an impact, right? And a lot of times
Right.
I've found that the impact is with me. Like,
Me too.
wow,
Me
I've done it
too.
again, right? And
Me
it's
too.
I think if we remain to if we continue to operate in that fashion, that we will be a success, whatever that is to us.
Exactly. And I think that helps tremendously because to your point, like I was feeling like if you want to grow, then you need to post every day. And I was like, wait a minute. What I'm not gonna do is have like anxiety over this.
Yeah.
I'm still gonna be intentional,
Yes.
but I'm not going to make this into an issue.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'm just gonna work my plan and keep working, but I'm not going to work myself to the point where I don't even enjoy it.
Yeah. No, that's good. And I think that that might have been the answer to my next question, but I'm gonna ask
Okay,
it
ask it anyway.
anyways. What is something that you have learned or you're still in the process of learning that you wish you had learned sooner?
Well, we can delve into that, but it is pretty much the same thing. Like I I would say probably about maybe a month and a half ago, I was feeling like you need to post every day. If you're serious about your brand, and I'm still serious about it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that. But for me personally, and I'm not sure if you can relate to this, sometimes I'll take myself too seriously to the point where it's just like I've worn myself out before I've even gotten anything done.
Hmm.
And so it's not productive. So one thing I'm learning is to be patient, and
Mm,
not just patient with like achieving goals or my vision coming to though. Yes, that's true, but just being patient with me and being
mhm.
patient with the journey and
Yeah,
enjoying that aspect of it. um Being intentional but just being patient at the
yeah.
same time.
No, that's so good. So, so, so good. And I can definitely relate. Um, so what are some of the tips and motivators that you use with either in your entrepreneurial career or as in HR, what are the things that you've just sort of kept you afloat?
The main thing that keeps me afloat, and I think this applies to anything that you do, is just giving it your best. Like
Mm-hmm.
whatever you're gonna do. Like if I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it right, and I'm gonna wanna give 110%, and that applies to anything that I do. If I'm gonna do it, like if I'm gonna do it, I want it done right, and I want to deliver consistently, deliver a level of excellence.
For
And I
sure.
think that applies to anything that you set out to do, because once you set the tone for that, then you can only go up from there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the main one of the main things, and then just staying focused, staying true to your vision. For me, um, I have a tendency to see things before they happen, and I envision myself where I like
Mm-hmm.
to be, even before like it even makes sense, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Oh,
And
girl,
so
makes
I
sense.
just I just cling to that, and even when it doesn't feel like it's working out, I have to keep that in the back of my mind. So I keep visions fresh in my mind, and I meditate on those things to keep me encouraged when I'm not encouraged. Those are the two things really for me, is just delivering excellence and just staying focused, staying motivated, and staying true to my vision for what I see for myself.
I love that. And that actually speaks to two things. So as you know, I just completed the Lean Academy, and
Yeah, so
one of
proud of
our
you.
thank you. One of our co-founders, Felicia Butterfield Jones, says that excellence is the baseline, just
The
the baseline.
baseline.
And so that's
It
what we have
is.
to, what I have to remind myself of often. But also, in one of her master classes last week, she had Bevy Smith on,
Mm-hmm.
and she said that she sort of like you has this vision, and her vision is of who she wants to be and who she's
Yeah.
excelling. And so her person is Malibu Bevy. And so I've
I love
created
it.
Aspen Ashley, and I'm like, okay, so today, what do I need to do so that Aspen Ashley can actually be a thing? So I love that you just mentioned that those two things as motivators for yourself. Um, and so, as we are wrapping up,
Yep.
I would like to ask you the last question of the show. I am Ashley, the amateur expert, and I claim to know a little bit about a lot. And so, I would love for you to share with me a random tidbit, a fun fact, or something new.
Okay, cool. So usually, like, I stress over this question because I hate when people are like, "What's a fun fact?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like I don't have anything." But I'm just gonna say this.
Tell me.
So I deem myself a fashion creative, right?
You are?
But I don't believe in fashion rules.
Hmm.
Like for an example, like not wearing white after Labor Day or just whatever people put out there. This is my philosophy when it comes to style. If you feel good in it, it looks good on you, or it represents you, then you go with that.
I
Like
love
I
that.
don't believe in like do's and don'ts, or like you should. I believe in being you, and that equates to style. That equates to anything. Like as long as you're confident
Yeah.
and you wear it well, it's good with me.
I love it. So, no fashion rules. I accept that and receive that because fashion ain't my thing. Anyhow, so I
Don't say
want to
that.
give you this opportunity to share with us how people can get in contact with you. I know that you
Yes.
just launched a website not too long ago.
Yep.
So, what are some of the services that you offer? How can people find you? All
Yes.
of the things.
Perfect. Good question. So definitely doing style consultations if you want to book me for any type of interviews or give me like those style tips, or if you have a group of folks that, we want to talk style or any type of coaching, you can find me on Instagram at the Kristin Peoples, or you can go on my website, which is www.kristinpeoples.com.
Love that. So we need to be still in the camera for like 5 seconds so that I can have a good snippet to use when I
Okay.
post this. So
Should I
here we go.
smile?
I mean, yes, let's give the people what they want.
So crazy. Okay.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3. so ridiculous, but thank you.
I could
Uh,
I couldn't tell if you were still froze. I was like, wait a minute.
oh man. I want to thank you so much again for being my first guest on the Asking for a Friend segment. You are a delight, and I am just thankful to know you and have you on again today.
Likewise, and I told you this when we first met. Like, I was so glad that I met you. Like, you are always such a pleasure, always such a light, and your energy is just amazing. So I'm just thankful to just be connected to you, and thank you for always hosting me on your platforms.
I appreciate you. This has been amazing. Thank you everyone for tuning in. If you tuned in late, you missed the message that I am dropping affirmed armor soon. I am wearing an affirmed armor hat.
Yes.
Stay tuned. Follow us on Affirmed Armor on Instagram. Log in, put in your email for notifications for when we drop. And thank you all for your love and support. Take care.
Good night.
Good night.